She was a beautiful young woman with a heart that was just as radiant.
She wanted to be a model originally, but decided that she wanted to be a nurse.
She had this loving, caring heart.
And when she met someone who shared her same positive outlook on life, sparks flew.
He was confident, fun, and friendly.
When she found out that she was pregnant, she was super excited.
Janelle was a wonderful mother.
But when she goes missing, there's immediate fears of foul play.
Because it's really not like her to go without communicating with someone in the family.
I'm like, man, something's not right, something's not right.
We knew that something had to be wrong.
Police will have to follow a winding trail of breadcrumbs to get to the truth.
She was looking for something new, something fresh to get away from her past.
There's no point of being apart. We might as well just continue to grow and make this a family.
Can they find the missing mother before it's too late?
We found some things that just simply don't add up.
He's got this now. Oh, you think?
They were sworn mortal enemies.
She took things to a whole nother level.
They said, you're not telling us the full story.
They found blood.
Dear God.
July 19th, 2010. It's a sweltering summer day in College Park, Georgia, a buzzing community just south of Atlanta.
In the summertime, we're talking hot. I mean, they don't call it Hotlanta by accident.
College Park in July is lively, very lively. It's kind of like almost the end of summer. So it's like that last bit of rush of just wanting to do everything and be outside.
At 10:30 a.m., 22-year-old Aisha Davis is trying to stay cool in the summer heat when she receives an unexpected phone call.
Hey, Errol, what's up?
The call is from Errol Moore, who shares a 5-month-old daughter with Aisha's sister, Janelle Aaron.
He called me and he proceeded to ask me had I spoken to my sister, Janelle. And I told him that no, I hadn't spoken to her.
No. Is everything okay?
I'm not sure.
He was worried because he hadn't spoken to her all weekend.
He stated that he called her multiple times on the phone and that she never answered the phone.
I mean, every time I try, I go straight to voicemail.
Let me try to give her a call.
I hung up with him and then I tried to reach her and I couldn't. And that's what began my worry.
Hey, it's Janelle. I can't get to the phone right now. Leave a message.
Hey, Janelle, give me a call when you get this.
Janelle was pretty tight with her extended family. She talked to them often.
Because it's really not like her to go missing without communicating with someone in the family for days.
So once I reached out to our family and friends, we realized that no one was able to get in contact or had spoken to Janelle in over 4 days.
We knew something was wrong.
Despite a challenging upbringing, 20-year-old Janelle Aaron always kept a positive outlook on life.
We grew up in family and foster care and custody of different family members. It was pretty much her and I against the world. But Janelle was very vibrant. She loved to make people laugh. She loved to what we call roast and joke. Her smile, her presence, she let you know she was here.
We met in high school around 10th grade. She was funny, feisty, really nice, kind, loyal, ride or die.
Janelle was also a dreamer with big plans for her future.
She was into fashion, a fashionista, I would say.
She wanted to be a model originally, but as she got older, Janelle decided that she wanted to be a nurse because she loved taking care of people. She had a knack for making people feel comfortable, making people feel safe.
She had this loving, caring heart, and she wanted to give back.
She was seeking a degree in healthcare into nursing. to pursue her final career.
It was around that time Janelle met a fellow student, Errol Moore.
Hey, I think I've seen you in class.
Yes, Mr. Gibson's class, right?
Yeah, I'm Errol.
Janelle.
You mind if I sit?
Of course, you can sit down.
He was confident, and Janelle really gravitated towards that.
So, I'm heading out with some friends at the classes this afternoon. You wanna come?
Sounds good. Sure.
Errol was fun and friendly, and they had lots in common in terms of their upbringing.
Once they started dating, the relationship moved fast.
The couple immediately became inseparable. If you saw one, you saw the other.
And in July of 2009, they received some unexpected news that would change their lives forever.
Janelle was dating Errol for about a year when she found out that she was pregnant. She was super excited. She always wanted to be a mother.
She had a natural maternal instinct. She loved children.
The way we grew up, not having our mother in our life in the capacity in which we wanted it, we always said that when we had children that, we were going to be amazing moms.
In February of 2010, her baby girl arrived.
She was excited and happy that she was finally born. She was very attentive, very caring and loving.
Janelle was a wonderful mother.
Once she had her daughter, that's all that mattered. There was nothing more important or a bigger accomplishment for her or achievement than bringing her daughter into this world.
Errol also took parenthood in stride.
Errol, as a father, was very invested. He was present. He definitely showed that he loved her and that he was excited that he had a new baby in the world.
But just 5 months after the birth of her daughter, Janelle's family is worried that something terrible has happened to the young mother.
No one has heard from Janelle in about 4 days, and this isn't like her to just disappear.
Janelle would never leave her 5-month-old daughter behind and just abandon her.
We decided to reach out to the police and put in a missing persons report.
The summer of 2010, Janelle Aaron was making strides to fulfill her dream of working in healthcare.
She entered Georgia Perimeter College, working to be a nurse.
She and her boyfriend, Errol Moore, had just welcomed a baby girl the same year. They had a bright future ahead of them.
But on July 19th, Janelle has gone missing.
No one has heard from Janelle in about 4 days.
We decided to reach out to the police and put in a missing persons report. When we spoke to the detectives, we tried to drive into them how we knew that something had to be wrong. Janelle had never been away from her daughter for any long extended amount of time, not even more than 24 hours, let alone multiple days.
What's so tricky for law enforcement is to try to understand, is this the type of lady who would go missing? Is this the type of lady who was exhausted from, those early months? What do we have here? Do we actually have a missing person?
So we understand Janelle's a new mom, so you don't think she might have just been trying to get away for a little while?
Absolutely not. She loves her daughter.
The family reiterated that Janelle would never leave her 5-month-old daughter behind and just abandon her.
She loved that baby girl.
Where's Janelle's daughter now?
She's at the house with her father.
Did Janelle seem stressed or upset about anything in the days leading up to her disappearance?
Yeah, she's been in a funk lately.
Janelle had been struggling with some postpartum depression.
Janelle dealt with what a lot of women deal with financially, being able to support your child as well as be present at the same time, which, of course, is hard to deal with for anyone.
But that's not all the young mother had been struggling with recently.
Janelle had hit a rough patch with Errol.
Janelle and Errol's relationship was very on again, off again.
And right now they're off. And she's actually seeing somebody new.
Oh, and who's that?
The family told police about this new guy, Tim Williams. This is somebody that Janelle had started dating.
They were in a new relationship, and she talked about him all the time. She was excited about this new relationship and where it could go.
Y'all spoken with this Tim fellow to see if maybe Janelle's with him?
No, we don't have his contact information.
Ladies, thank you for coming in.
However, detectives quickly tracked Tim down.
After a quick background check, police find out that this Tim Williams worked at a shoe store.
He is a student at Georgia State. He has no criminal background.
Detectives reach out to Tim and ask him to come in for an interview regarding Janelle's disappearance.
I got a phone call from a detective. A detective wanted to see me personally to ask me questions about her whereabouts. And I remember just being shook up.
He's being very compliant and amicable, so he goes into the station for an interview.
Tim, thanks for coming in today.
Of course. Anything I can do to help? I remember going to the police station and talking to the detectives and just feeling sick.
Now, we're gonna have to ask you some tough questions, okay, Tim?
I'm understanding they have to do their job, but just them asking me certain questions as if like I would know what her whereabouts was, as if I would ever injure anybody but her in particular. How much did I love her? Did I provoke anybody in her circle? Or do I have anybody that's after me that would harm her just to get back at me?
This is all so crazy. I have no idea where she is.
I remember just kind of taking it all in and hitting them with a lot of no sir, yes sir, no sir, yes sir. This is all kind of too much.
I just hope that she's okay. She really means a lot to me.
We just had a spark for each other, like a spark. Like I was really intrigued at how driven she was. Janelle's personality was everything all in once. Like she was so outgoing and bubbly, but she was also a firecracker. And when she loved you, she loved you.
She is just the best mom.
At that time, I didn't have any kids, but I looked at her daughters as mine. Like it wasn't no turning her away from me.
Janelle indicated that she was looking for something new, something fresh to get away from her past. It made Tim believe that whatever she had with Errol is past tense and that he was going to be the man for her moving forward.
Well, when's the last time you've seen Janelle?
Tim says that the last time he talked to Janelle was the morning of July 15th because she had spent the night with him.
What you cooking?
The last time I spoke and saw Janelle, I have this day in my head. It runs back and back and back. And I just remember her making grits, eggs, and biscuits for me.
I have it right here for you, honey.
Oh, son. This looks delicious. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
Timothy explains that Janelle and her daughter had been planning to move in with him.
Part of the day's plan was for her to gather up her things and come move into the apartment with me. It was to the point where it was like, there's no point in us being apart. We might as well just like continue to grow and make this a family. And like, this is gonna be your new life.
Well, I gotta get over there.
I remember she gave me a hug, I kissed her.
I love you so much.
Love you too.
She left and she told me she would give me a call later on that day to let me know when she was on her way back.
However, Tim says he never got that call.
Waited for hours and I heard nothing back.
I got honestly concerned, so I called the phone. She didn't pick up.
Later on that evening, Tim finally got a response, but it only raised more cause for concern.
I got a text message back that said, "Who is this?" So I knew that was a concerning point. I was like, I need to go over to this crib that she said she was going to. It was a place that she was sharing with her old ex-boyfriend. I need to go see, make sure everything is okay.
But when Tim went over to the apartment, he didn't find Janelle, her daughter, or Errol.
No one was home as far as I could tell.
Went out there with some childhood friends of mine, and we knocked on the door. We banged on the door because I just had to know she was okay. Nobody ever answered. Tried to peek through the window, didn't see anything.
Well, how does Errol feel about Janelle moving in with you?
Not good. Jealous.
There definitely seemed to be some jealousy issues there. I think Errol viewed the situation as if Tim was trying to take over his family.
But Tim claims Janelle had good reason to leave.
Tim told detectives that he heard Errol had been violent with Janelle in the past.
She didn't tell me a lot of details, but that's part of the reason that she didn't want to be with him anymore.
This information raises red flags for detectives.
If Errol had been violent with Janelle in the past, was it possible that he took things too far?
But before detectives can reach out to Errol, they receive an alarming phone call that will turn the case on its head.
Police get this call from the apartment manager where Janelle lived.
The property manager said, I think y'all want to be aware of this.
They found blood.
Of 2010, detectives have spoken with Timothy Williams about the disappearance of his girlfriend, 20-year-old Janelle Aaron.
In speaking with Timothy, detectives learned that Janelle was planning to move out of her apartment with her ex, Errol Moore, and start a new life with him.
But that new life never came to fruition.
Timothy claims that after Janelle left his apartment the morning of the 14th to gather her things, he never heard from her again.
And now, detectives have received an alarming phone call from Janelle's apartment complex.
Police get this call from the apartment manager. They had been preparing to lease out her apartment. They had cleaned it out and everything.
And the property manager said, I think y'all want to be aware of this.
They found blood underneath the carpet in the apartment.
Thank you for your time, Tim.
Is everything okay?
We'll be in touch. Walk you out.
The discovery was made during a routine carpet cleaning.
As the carpet cleaner is, of course, cleaning the carpet, the machinery he uses is applying steam to that area. And as that steam hits, blood starts to come up.
Detectives head to the apartment to view the shocking new blood evidence for themselves.
The padding that was underneath the original carpet was soaked completely in blood, and the wooden subfloor directly underneath that was also soaked completely in blood.
Whoever was at that spot where that stain was starting was bleeding a lot.
And that became the very first sign, beyond their hunch, that we had wrongdoing here, that there was some foul play.
Now more than ever, detectives are eager to speak with Errol Moore. And later that afternoon, they're able to do just that.
He's very cooperative and agrees to go to the station for an interview. He seems very concerned about the blood found at the apartment.
But Errol insists he has no idea how it got there.
Do y'all think that means she's hurt? I'm so worried about her.
We don't know. We've sent the blood off for testing to see if it's a match for Janelle, but it's not looking good.
Detectives tell him that they know he's been physically violent with Janelle in the past. And Errol doesn't deny it. He says, yes, he has, but they always found a way to smooth things out and make up.
It's definitely not something that I'm proud of. I care about her a lot.
Errol says the last time he saw Janelle was on the 15th, when she was packing up her bags at her apartment.
And then later on, he had no idea where Janelle was at and was unable to get in contact with her. He stated that he called her multiple times on the phone and that she never answered the phone.
Errol admits he wasn't happy about Janelle's plan to move in with her new boyfriend, Tim.
He knew about Tim, he knew that Tim was dating Janelle, but he assures detectives that it was nothing serious.
Listen, Janelle and I have never had the perfect relationship, but we always end up working things out.
He said Janelle was still in love with him and that they were planning on getting back together.
Errol claims that he and Janelle had so much chemistry that in fact, the two of them had sex multiple times on the 15th.
What time did she leave?
Well, technically, I'm the one who left.
What do you mean?
Errol Moore mentions that he has another girlfriend.
He says he took the baby to his other girlfriend's house.
Errol's new girlfriend's name is Candace Dean.
So the police are like, well, who is Candace Dean?
Errol told police that he and Candace had dated in high school, then she moved away for about a year, but when she returned, they picked up where they left off.
Janelle wasn't too happy about that, and she started sending Candace messages on social media.
Candace and Janelle were sworn mortal enemies.
Oh, girl, get out of here. He's got this now.
College Park detectives investigating the disappearance of 20-year-old Janelle Aaron are speaking with her ex-boyfriend, Errol Moore.
Errol claims that he and Janelle slept together on July 15th, the same day she disappeared.
And according to Errol, that wasn't his only sexual rendezvous that day.
When he left the apartment, he left to meet up with his girlfriend, Candace Dean.
Candace and Janelle were sworn mortal enemies.
Errol tells detectives the tension between Janelle and Candace reached its peak a few months earlier.
Errol claimed Janelle actually confronted him and Candace.
Oh, girl, get out of here. He's got this now. You think so?
Janelle, just leave us alone.
Errol says he's trying to get Janelle to leave, and then that's when he says Janelle took things to a whole nother level.
Janelle actually escalated it and slapped Errol across the face.
Errol claims he tried to keep his cool.
Errol just told her she needed to leave and she needed to calm down.
Errol said she finally left, but she and Candace never smoothed things over.
Do you think Candace could have harmed Janelle?
Nah, no way.
Errol told police that he knew that Candace hated Janelle and Janelle hated Candace, but he didn't think that she would want to hurt her.
However, detectives aren't so sure.
They want to speak with Candace immediately to get her side of the story.
So after wrapping up their interview with Errol, they bring Candace in for questioning.
So here's the deal, Candace. Janelle Aaron has been missing since July 15th, and we know the two of you have not been getting along.
So, I haven't seen her in months, and I plan to keep it that way.
Candace says that Errol was only spending time with Janelle because of the baby, and that Errol really didn't want to be with her, and he was truly in love with Candace.
Is that why he slept with her on the 15th before he met up with you?
What?
This information hits Candace hard. She starts crying. She's very emotional.
I can't believe he played me like that.
Candace, listen. Tell us the truth. Did you do anything to hurt Janelle?
No.
Candace admitted that she and Janelle hated each other, but she didn't have anything to do with her disappearance.
Candace confirms that Errol came over to her place on the evening of July 15th, around 7:30 p.m.
She said he went to spend the night with her and left the next day around noon. She never saw or heard from Janelle during that time.
Detectives are suspicious of Candace's story, but they can't hold her on a hunch.
While detectives aren't 100% sure that they can trust Candace, they have no evidence to hold her on, so they end up releasing her.
Without a body or confirmation of Janelle being dead, the police have their hands tied in a lot of ways.
However, when the lab results from the blood found in Janelle's apartment come back, it confirms everyone's worst fears.
The crime lab confirmed, in fact, that the blood within the apartment belonged to Janelle Aaron. We had positive identification at that point that that blood was hers.
At this point, detectives are worried it may be too late to save Janelle. It's clear she lost a lot of blood.
But who did this to her? When Janelle's best friend, Jasmine Clark, comes forward, detectives will get one step closer to answering that question.
Thank you for coming in today. We understand that you may have some information that will be useful to us.
The last time I talked to Janelle was July 15th. On the phone, Janelle was telling me about Tim, and she sounded really excited about this relationship. I remember asking her, well, what about Errol? And she seemed so done. Like, okay, what about him? She was so over it.
Girl, I'm packing up to leave as we speak.
But Jasmine says Errol soon interrupted their conversation.
Janelle! They started arguing, like a verbal altercation, and she was like, basically like, I'm gonna call you back. Basically, when he leaves, I'll call you back. And I said, okay.
Bye, girl.
Factually, Errol was the last person to be with Janelle.
The detectives asked me if I believed that Errol was capable of hurting Janelle, and yes, I did believe that.
Detectives need to get Errol Moore to tell them the truth.
With her best friend Jasmine, detectives investigating the disappearance of Janelle Aaron are more certain than ever that Janelle's ex-boyfriend, Errol Moore, knows what happened to her.
Janelle's best friend Jasmine overheard her arguing over the phone with Errol shortly before she disappeared.
And according to Janelle's friends, he was known to be violent with her.
The detectives asked me if I believed that Errol was capable of hurting Janelle, and yes, I did believe that.
So based on those facts and circumstances, we knew that it was highly likely that he had a direct involvement with Janelle's disappearance, but we had no proof. We had no eyewitnesses.
Detectives know that if they want any chance of finding Janelle alive, they're going to have to get Errol to come out with the truth.
Later that day, they bring him back in for a follow-up interview.
Welcome back, Errol.
They said, you know, Errol, you're not telling us the full story. We've done our own investigation, and we found some things that just simply don't add up.
What were you and Janelle arguing about that afternoon? And why did you fail to mention it the last time we spoke?
At this point, Errol cracks.
So what Errol Moore finally said was, you know what, it's true. What I'd been telling you wasn't the full story. Errol said, I got in an argument with her about Tim Williams.
Now, what does he have that I don't?
He's nice to me for one thing.
And I'm not nice to you?
Janelle fought back. She argued with him that he was with Candace. He was with somebody else too, so why did it matter if she had moved on?
Just leave me alone.
What? Nah.
Errol admits that the argument became more and more heated.
Errol claims Janelle then escalated the fight to a whole new level.
You're making a mistake. We should be a family.
Errol, I've had it with you.
At that point, Janelle, he says, grabbed a knife.
Errol says he grabbed Janelle's hand, and that's when she dropped the knife, but he says she kept coming at him, and he says that's when he put her in a chokehold.
And then just began choking her, and she began convulsing. After her convulsion, she fell down on the ground, and he said he could not get her up.
Janelle?
Well, what about the blood?
I asked him, did you cut her? Because there was a lot of blood in the house. And he said no, but she was bleeding out the mouth.
Errol said, I panicked and I left with the baby and I left with her things.
Look, I was just so in shock that the situation got so out of hand.
I said, well, where did you go? And he said, well, I went back to my girlfriend's house and I continued my life, basically.
I was confused. I was scared.
He said, I spent the weekend trying to figure out what to do.
And Errol said when a couple days went by, he knew he needed to do something.
As time passed, he was able to gather his thoughts, and then he realized that he had to go back and clean up the crime scene.
At first, he was hoping it was just a horrible nightmare. But when he opened the door, he saw Janelle lying in a pool of her own blood.
Errol didn't really know what to do with the body, but eventually he looked around and he saw a big blue bin that Janelle had used to move her things down to Atlanta. He grabbed the bin and placed her body in the bin.
Then he began cleaning up.
And what'd you do with her body?
Tell us where she is, Errol.
He finally admits that he placed her in a wooded area near Sherwood Cemetery.
Look, you have to believe me. I didn't expect for any of this to happen.
Go ahead and stand up, Errol.
With Errol's confession, Clayton County Police arrest him, and they assemble a team to go out and recover Janelle's body.
We went out to Sherwood Cemetery and started doing a grid search.
Eventually, they see something in the distance there. It looks like something covered in leaves, and they walk up and discover a blue bin.
What's inside that bin is the likes of which investigators have never seen.
Dear God.
Errol Moore has finally admitted to killing his ex-girlfriend, Janelle Aaron.
He claimed he killed her in self-defense after she came at him with a knife, but investigators don't really buy his story.
After speaking with Errol, investigators have arrived at the location where he claims to have left Janelle's body inside a plastic bin, but they never could have prepared themselves for what they find.
What's inside that bin is the likes of which investigators have never seen.
Dear God.
The badly decomposed remains of Janelle Aaron.
Her body literally melted in that hot Atlanta heat.
Atlanta had a large amount of rain during the summertime. And unfortunately, with that large amount of rain, the actual plastic tote that her body was placed in filled up with water all the way to the top. There wasn't a lot left of her body.
The state of decomposition means proving cause of death will be difficult.
We could never figure out what actually cause of the death was because there was no physical evidence to say that she was stabbed, choked, because the body was so decomposed.
The news hits Janelle's loved ones like a ton of bricks.
They've informed us that they had found my sister's remains and that Errol led them to her. My first reaction, I screamed. I just screamed.
I remember they telling me that she was deceased. And I remember just dropping down to my knees and crying. I remember like being around people and they like, what is wrong with him? Like, it just broke my heart.
I was heartbroken. I was destroyed. I couldn't understand how Errol was the one saying, come home, and this whole time it was you.
We had been suffering and searching and hoping and wanting and processing and dealing for over 3 months at this point. So the relief came in getting that information that we needed so that we could be at peace. There was minor relief in knowing that he was caught and that he wasn't going to be able to just live out here freely.
Errol is officially charged with Janelle's murder.
He was charged with 1 count of malice murder, 1 count of felony murder, 3 counts of concealing a body, and 1 count of tampering with evidence.
And when he goes on trial in April of 2012, prosecutors don't hold back.
One of the main thrusts of this case for the prosecution was the hypocrisy of it all. The hypocrisy of his actions and the hypocrisy of his words. That is, after she went missing in July, he spent the next 2 or 3 months talking about how much he missed her, talking about how much their baby needed her mother, and then to have it discovered that he knew where her remains were the entire time. And for months he knew, and for months he did nothing about it, while callously disregarding the pain and the suffering that her family was going through. And so that was the story we told.
Errol's defense team echoes the same version of events Errol told detectives, that he attacked Janelle in self-defense. But prosecutors aren't buying it.
Our theory of the case from beginning to end always was and still remains that this wasn't an act of self-defense. This was an act of rage.
Now, what does he have that I don't?
Just leave me alone.
What? Nah.
Janelle never came at Errol with a knife. She was simply trying to leave the apartment.
You ain't leaving.
Okay, can you stop?
I ain't letting you break up our family.
It's surmised that when she tried to leave, Errol slammed her to the ground, with the force of impact causing her to bleed out, resulting in the pool of blood found in the apartment.
This was an act of enraged young man responding to a situation that he could no longer control, and that is namely Janelle moving on and seeing a new guy and starting a new life. He has this personality type of narcissism. I'm gonna be the one to control this. I'm gonna be the one to prevail. And so it's that very personality type that led to the murder in the first place.
But after the jury retires to deliberate, they send shockwaves through the courtroom.
Some of the jury believes that Errol was telling the truth.
You have 12 jurors. You have to have an unanimous verdict. It has to be all 12. When they show what happened, they make a decision, guilty or not.
They can't reach a decision. So ultimately, the court is left to declare a mistrial.
I was extremely nervous when the mistrial happened and that he may get away with it. I was very worried. And he had been twisting the story and maneuvering it the entire time. So there's always that in the back of your mind, like they could possibly believe that. And he could possibly get away with it.
Errol Moore used the self-defense issue, which shows you even more that he really had no remorse for Janelle. If he did, he would take responsibility for it and not put the family through that trial again.
To go through a trial is just grueling in itself. To go through that process, especially with someone who you love and you're close with, but then to watch and hear a mistrial and to just feel like that person is getting away, even if it's just momentarily, that feeling of helplessness, that feeling of that person possibly getting away with taking your loved one from you and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't wish that feeling on anyone.
But prosecutors encourage Janelle's loved ones to keep the faith.
He doesn't get released on bond or nothing like that. They just try it again. To have a verdict, you have to have all 12 people make the same decision on it. It can't be a majority.
So in April 2012, the second trial began. And honestly, I will say I didn't want to get my hopes up. I was hoping that this time around, justice would be served and we would get some progress, but didn't have my hopes up high for it.
This time, the district attorney's office presented basically the same evidence as last time, trying to show that this was not an accident. This was premeditated jealousy.
And this time, the jury agrees.
The jury in Clayton County found Errol Moore guilty of voluntary manslaughter, tampering with evidence, aggravated assault.
Voluntary manslaughter, meaning that Errol Moore did kill Janelle Aaron, but it was in a heat of passion. It wasn't a malice, intentional murder.
Clayton County judge sentenced Errol Moore to 36 years behind bars, which seems like not enough time in this case.
I was relieved when I heard the verdict to an extent, but unfortunately, my sister's life is over. She'll never get to know her daughter. My family and I will never get to speak to her again. We'll never get to see her again. It'll never be fair. It'll never be completely justified, in my opinion.
Eventually, he will be out. Hopefully, he matured and he forgave himself for his wrongs, and the world will too. But me personally, I never forgive him. A beautiful soul was taken away off jealousy and anger. We lost a great woman, a great mother, a great friend, a soulmate, a sister in this horrible, horrible fatal attraction.
I don't feel or believe that justice was served. This was very unfortunate, a tragedy. It was unnecessary and uncalled for, especially considering that Errol had a whole nother girlfriend. He took a life for nothing. My niece is currently being taken care of by my aunt, and she is in a loving environment, and we're all working together to grow her and give her everything she needs to become a beautiful, amazing woman just like her mom. Janelle, she was a great mother, and she loved her daughter more than anything in this world. And so I just want her to be remembered for the best of who she was, not how she left.
Abuse is never okay. If you or someone you love is in an abusive relationship, there is help available. call the Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE.
New York City, 1994. A huge year for music in the Big Apple. At the forefront lies a beacon of creativity and innovation nestled in the heart of downtown Manhattan, where industry icons and artists alike boast of its prestige.
The rising hip-hop star entered Quad Studios with his entourage, ready to lay down some tracks for a new project. Quad Studios was a pretty active studio, and everyone who was anyone recorded there. The atmosphere at Quad Studios was typical of a busy recording session. However, there was an underlying tension due to the power dynamics within the hip-hop community.
Yet the bigger the artist that donned the door
unfolds. We are when that modern lady just got shot. She was shot and then dumped out just like garbage.
A persistent detective.
So what do we got here?
I'm very stubborn. I feel like every case can be solved.
Must unravel a mysterious murder.
I seen the whole thing go down.
The path to justice.
Do you know anyone who could have done this?
All signs are pointing to an angry ex-lover.
Takes the investigation.
Oh my God.
I don't know who he is, but this is the guy who committed the murder.
Down many wrong turns.
Find shell casings?
No.
And dead ends.
If you don't stop, then you don't fail.
Before finally leading.
Your DNA ended up in that car.
It's like 1,000,000,000 to 1 he's not the killer.
To the most shocking ending of all.
You're saying that's not me?
That is definitely not me.
He said his brother did it. This is insane.
We spent our careers solving Atlanta's most puzzling homicides.
But there are other investigators just like us.
With the passion and skills needed to solve the most unbelievably challenging murders.
These are their cases.
We're on Pleasant Hill Road in Duluth, Georgia. It's about 15 minutes north of the city of Atlanta.
Duluth has a small town charm mixed with big city vibes. The city is actually in Gwinnett County. Not far from here is the Gwinnett Place Mall. It's mostly vacant now, but once upon a time, it was the leading mall in the area.
In the summer of 2008, it was the scene of a crime that rocked the community.
But 911.
We are going that mall and the lady just got shot.
Where at it? Gwinnett Place Mall.
Where the bus station's at.
Did you see where the person is that did it?
Yeah, he was in a car, but he pulled off.
When Gwinnett County PD arrived, they found this victim in a desolate parking lot. They wasn't quite sure exactly what was going on, but her breathing was labored. They would soon find out that this victim had a huge gunshot wound to her chest.
Medical personnel arrive on scene and transport the victim to the hospital.
It was Friday evening. I had worked a full day shift. I was pretty much changed, ready, relaxing at the house, and my phone rang.
What's up?
And they notified me, hey, you're up. Somebody's been murdered. There was a single gunshot wound to a victim, and they were deceased at the hospital and required my response at the scene.
I'll be there soon.
My wife tells me, I guess I'll see you in a couple days, because that's generally what happens.
It can be challenging for a family. My wife was actually an Atlanta police sergeant, so she understood what I was going through.
I've always had the path that I wanted to become a law enforcement officer. I know it sounds cheesy, everybody says that, but I wanted to actually make a difference in society. The tenacity that you have to have for homicide is key, and I don't quit. I feel like that's the best asset that I have. Every minute counts on these scenes. You gotta get out there, you gotta get to witnesses, you gotta get to evidence.
Detective, so what do we got here? The victim was a black female. She was shot once.
There was a single gunshot wound to the victim's upper left chest. However, there was no exit wound. And that's why there was not a lot of blood on scene.
She had no ID on her when we found her.
No wallet, no purse, and there's nothing else around the scene.
Suspect fled in a beige or golden colored car. Okay. Did we find any shell casings? No.
Why are there no shell casings? Two possibilities. It's a revolver or the shell casing got stuck inside the car. It's with the vehicle.
Doesn't look like there's much here. Check the area for surveillance cameras.
There's not a major crime scene to process at this point, because it's just a parking lot. And looking in the parking lot, I saw nothing. To be honest with you, it's kind of dejecting. And so my next question is, what happened?
It's so important in this game of homicide or any police work is to interview your witnesses quickly.
What can you tell me?
I was at the bus stop.
We actually have a key witness who was a bus driver.
I love bus drivers. My old man was a bus driver. They see everything.
She was parked probably maybe 50 feet or so. So she had a pretty close vantage point.
I seen the whole thing go down.
She observed a male approach this four-door gold car parked in a parking spot. Get into the passenger side. He was in the vehicle, what she described, for a few minutes.
What happened next?
He got out of the car, and then he walked around to the driver's side.
The male yelled some expletive words towards her. She then saw him fire a single shot into the vehicle.
That shows malice. Who knows why, but it wasn't a simple accident that happened.
She stated that male then pulled the victim out of the vehicle, entered the driver's seat, and slowly drove away.
It was a gold car, 4 doors.
Her testimony regarding what she saw was corroborated by other witnesses on scene. However, her statement was the clearest picture of what occurred.
Can you describe the gunman?
It was a black guy.
Her description of him was vague, but she did provide a description that he had a white shirt with green over top.
It was a distinct t-shirt with green and white on it. It was so profound that it caught the eye of this witness.
The bus driver's story leads to a possible motive in the murder. He's got to appreciate the fact that this killer was actually sitting in the passenger side front of the car of the victim. I mean, you got to consider, is this some kind of domestic situation?
Hey, I didn't find any cameras. Nothing, huh? Nothing. Okay, thank you.
He's got the clock ticking. Detective Cruz has to work this homicide as quickly as possible.
At this point, I realize my victim is the key to figuring out what happened. My next course of action is to reach out to our county operator and say, hey, look, I need this person put on the system as missing.
Our Vic is a black female.
I provided them with the victim's description. And I said, if anybody calls in this evening from any location, wake me up and give me a call. Then I went home. I think I go to sleep maybe 2:15. I felt like I didn't even close my eyes, but I hear the phone ring.
Hello?
We have a match.
And it's the county operator. They say, hey, look, we've got a report of a missing person. They provided the name of the missing person as Janai Coleman.
She was driving a gold 4-door sedan.
It was a gold car, 4 doors.
Who reported her missing?
Her sister.
Okay, can I have the address?
Based off the description for the missing person report, I believed it was a very good possibility that this was my victim.
Okay, thanks.
Detective Cruz has a monumental task at hand right now. He's got to speak to a potential family member of his victim who reported someone missing. Detective Cruz and another investigator meet with Janai Coleman's sister.
Thank you for meeting with us.
Since Detective Cruz doesn't know for sure if Janai is his victim, he doesn't tell the sister about the homicide.
I introduce myself and I say, hey, look, you know, we heard you want to file a missing person report.
Can you tell me what happened?
Janai took her daughter to school.
She generally waited for her to pick her up, which was right in the area where the murder occurred.
Calls to her phone keep going to voicemail.
Detective Cruz is on the right track, but then he notices something that pushes him over the edge.
My eyes are scanning, looking around the house, which I think I do it everywhere I go. And I saw a picture on the refrigerator.
It's not like her to do this.
I remember looking at the refrigerator, and we had obtained a photograph of the victim at the hospital, and that was sent to me. And I looked at the picture on the refrigerator, and I'm realizing this is my victim.
I have some questions.
Now it's time to figure out what's really going on here.
Found her.
Detective Damian Cruz is working the puzzling murder of a woman shot outside of a mall in Gwinnett County, Georgia.
All right, doesn't look like there's anything here. Check the area for surveillance cameras.
Detective Cruz knows the killer fled in the victim's car, but he's got no physical evidence at the crime scene. Plus, he doesn't know the victim's identity.
We have a match.
He catches a break when a woman reports her sister, Janai Coleman, is missing.
Can you tell me what happened?
At Janai's sister's house, Detective Cruz makes an incredible discovery.
Looked at the picture on the refrigerator, and I'm like, I believe that's her.
I have some questions.
He's got to get as much information out of that family as he can before he breaks that news, because 9 out of 10 times, once a detective does that, they shut down.
I tried to get the information pertaining to the vehicle so we could at least put that on the system.
Do you know Janai's car tag number by any chance?
Yes.
Because I knew that the vehicle was key to this case. I told the other detective that was with me, hey, put this on the system real quick.
Excuse me. So can you tell me about Janai?
She's a saint.
She was a school teacher. She was very religious. She was a loving mother. And she even served the armed forces.
That's a victim you just want to run for. While you love all your victims, this victim appears to just have a pure soul.
I want to show you something.
And I said, look, there was an incident tonight. We didn't know who Janai was. But I believe, she was the victim in this case that we have now. And that's the reason I'm here.
Is this female in the photo your sister?
We had a photograph from the hospital. She immediately identified her.
Mm-hmm.
You sure?
Absolutely.
The trauma and the emotion that overwhelms those family members is incredible. It's tangible. You can feel it in the room.
Now, do you know anyone who could have done this?
No.
She was very adamant, no. She didn't have, promiscuous boyfriend. She didn't have an angry boyfriend. She wasn't involved in any criminal activities.
Everyone loved her. This doesn't make any sense.
I feel frustrated that I can't give the family answers or closure at that point in time. And so knowing that, I knew the vehicle was even more important because that was our scene.
We found the car. Where? Forest Park. Police spotted it around 11 p.m.
I'm looking at a window of 2 hours after my murder happened. An officer was running that tag in Forest Park, which is approximately 45, 50 minutes south of Gwinnett County.
Okay, we need to go now. Thank you for your time.
I gave her my business card and I said, look, I am so sorry for your loss, but we gotta go. I'm following up on this case. The car was abandoned in like a little strip mall. It was just parked unassumingly in a parking lot.
Detective Cruz then has the victim's car towed back to the police department to process for evidence.
We put it directly into our crime scene base, secure, and then the crime scene investigators start doing their thing. I'm very excited. I mean, anything could be in that vehicle, and every little detail of a clue could be something. She does fingerprinting for swabs, looking for possible DNA.
Did you find any shell casings?
No.
It was clean. The insides were spotless. It was pristine.
Look at this.
What you got?
Detective Damian Cruz's crime scene tech locates a cigarette butt behind the driver's seat.
Did your victim smoke?
I don't know.
The cigarette butt, I believed initially, was huge because that vehicle did not look like it was a smoker's car.
Let me call her sister and ask.
I said, hey, look, does Janai smoke? And her sister was like, absolutely not. And I said, is anybody allowed to smoke in their car? Like, absolutely not.
Without question, that cigarette butt could belong to the killer of Detective Cruz's victim, Janai Coleman.
I'm gonna send this to the lab for testing.
but it's going to be a little while before we hear back.
So in 2008, it could take several months to just determine if there is DNA on the cigarette butt.
Great. Let me know as soon as you hear something.
I think my optimism is what drives me. There's going to be something around the corner that'll break the case. So I keep looking.
We met with Detective Cruz to learn how he moved this investigation forward.
Now you have this car that you know belongs to your victim. It was taken in a homicide. Man, it's like waking up on Christmas morning, opening up your presents.
We were able to process it. Let me show you real quick. We've actually got the vehicle here. That's our crime scene bay analysis. It was the Dodge Stratus. I got fingerprints inside the vehicle, on the rearview mirror, on the A-pillar, on top of the hood on the driver's side.
Those are creamy.
Nice.
I like
That's a good one right there.
Yeah, we found out that it didn't match the victim or anybody else had been in her vehicle. I was very, very confident that this was my suspect's prints. Oh, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can upload it to APHIS, the national database, and maybe get a hit. No, of course not, right? That'd be too easy. So they weren't able to upload it, so I needed a known identifiable suspect to do comparative analysis.
So the print is good, but you're still back to square one trying to ID your suspect.
Correct.
What do you do next?
So now that I've established a suspect, at least a rough description, I start scavenging the area, and I start pulling every piece of available video, either inside or outside of those businesses. I collected video from gas stations, convenience stores, restaurants, where the murder occurred and where the vehicle was dumped. And then I began the process of starting to just go through hours and hours and hours of video, looking for ultimately a needle in a haystack. And I'm looking for a male, a black male wearing white with green over top.
Detective Cruz gets the video from a gas station right across the street where Janai Coleman was killed.
I'm watching clips and I'm watching people come in and out of the store all day.
Less than an hour before the murder occurs, a man enters the gas station and it really catches Detective Cruz's eye.
Whoa, who are you?
He's wearing a 3/4 shirt. It's the kind of baseball shirt we had in Little League, where the sleeves are green and the top part is white.
That was his aha moment.
White and green. Like a green overtop?
Yeah, it was green.
It matches up with the witness at the bus station said.
So many times Quinn and I have had so many cases where we're looking at the video and we see it. It just sounds like a beacon from heaven coming down, shining, and letting us know, I'm here, this is me.
It looks like Detective Cruz just found Janai's killer.
Female.
I think what makes me a good homicide investigator is the resilience of not quitting, following every lead.
Did your victim smoke?
Let me call her sister and ask.
It's almost like a carrot in front of a horse, right? They just keep going even though they're not going to get there. I'm very stubborn. And I'm also optimistic, which in this field is probably not a good thing, but if you don't stop, then you don't fail.
White and green. It's starting to take off.
Look at this.
Detective Cruz recovers a vehicle and gets a couple pieces of evidence, including a cigarette butt that may belong to the suspect.
Whoa, who are you?
After going through hours of surveillance video, he spots a guy that grabs his attention.
White and green.
I'm feeling pretty confident that this could be the gentleman who committed the murder.
The video is great color, but at the same time, it's a little muddled. But it's the kind of video that me and Vince used to always say, his mama don't know who he is.
He buys a beer. You can hear his interaction with the clerk at the counter. He even kind of gets disgruntled a little bit when he buys the beer and says, hey, well, I don't need a brown bag.
We don't have brown big bags in bars.
And the clerk says, look, buddy, that's the rules. I got to put it in a bag if you're going to walk out of here. He walks out. And he comes back in. He buys a pack of cigarettes. My first thing in my brain is like, what cigarettes is he ordering?
One for light long. Long? Yeah.
You can't really hear the name, brand of the cigarettes, but you do hear him say light longs. So that's basically a longer version of a normal size cigarette.
There's like a ton of brands of cigarettes, and I don't know which specific brand he's smoking.
While Detective Cruz can't hear or distinguish what brand cigarette this potential suspect is purchasing, he's going where he needs to be on this case. It's this guy till it's not this guy.
And he leaves. And then he never comes back in. I start going through more video, because now I'm going through video like crazy. Come on, man.
Detective Cruz screens videos from a business where Janai's car was dumped.
They're small AVI files, and I'm just going click, and it goes for 5 seconds, and I gotta click on the next one. I watch, I think it was like 400 and something clips. I just see like a blurb, like a blip. And I was like, was that something? And let me rewind it. And it was, I want to say a second.
This is a video that if you blink too fast, you may miss it.
And I freeze it and I pause it.
Oh my God. Oh, wait.
He knows right then, that's the same man that was in the convenience store.
I've confirmed he was at both locations at the time of the murder and where the car was dumped. So now I've got him on both ends, right? So I felt great. I mean, I knew that's who we were looking for. I just didn't know who he was.
Suddenly, the crime lab calls with an update on the cigarette butt in Janai's car.
Detective Cruz.
And I got a notification that, yes, there was DNA, and it was determined to be male DNA.
This killer has left a signature card in this victim's car in the form of his cigarette butt.
That's huge. That's a moment you live for in a homicide investigation. That's a hallelujah moment in your cubicle when you get that kind of information.
We need to do further testing.
They had to do DNA typing on it, so that had to be sent away.
We'll let you know once it's done.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know how long it would take. And so as the DNA was taking a little bit of time, I felt that the best next course of action was to release the video.
The police department does a press release to the media. They've shared still photos of the suspect from the convenience store video.
Detective Cruz believed the news coverage would help generate leads to identify the killer, but nothing came of it. A few months later, the DNA testing was finally completed. They uploaded the sample to CODIS, a DNA database with convicted felons.
Detective Cruz crossed his fingers and hoping that a match would be made to somebody in the system. He was pretty much stuck until he can get something from that DNA.
A month goes by, then several months go by. Now he's into a year. He still hasn't brought this case in. That's the frustration that you gotta sign up for when you become a homicide detective. I mean, we feel his pain.
I know this is the individual who committed the crime, so I'm optimistic that it will get solved, but I'm frustrated that there's no progress at that point where we kind of hit a stalemate in the case. So August 6th, 2009, I was in my office working at my desk on a separate case, and my phone rang.
Detective Cruz.
It was the CODIS administrator through the GBI.
Okay, what do you got for me?
A match in the Janai Coleman homicide.
The case that just was cold for the year just got initially fired back up.
Hey, we got a hit. What case? Janai Coleman.
And I told him, he's like, in disbelief, and excitement at the same time.
All right, what did he tell me?
The suspect's name is Donald Smith.
Detective Cruz has the name of the killer. It's time to track him down and bring him in.
Detective Cruz.
Detective Damian Cruz just received game-changing news in the Janai Coleman homicide case.
Hey, we got a hit.
DNA from a cigarette butt found in her car has been matched to a known offender.
The suspect's name is Donald Smith.
Detective Cruz is thinking either Donald is the killer, or he better have a damn good explanation as to why he was in Janai's car.
What other details can you tell me?
We start scrambling. Who is this person? Where do they live? How do we find them? What do they look like? The investigation is like re-triggered because now you know the evidence you have, but now you have somebody to match up to it. So it's exciting. One of the first things I do is I get a photograph of him. The height matches, the weight matches, the complexion, the age. All these things start matching up with the surveillance video shows. And now I'm thinking this is good.
Donald's a convicted felon, so his prints will be on file. I think we need to visit the lab.
I was able to ascertain that fingerprints were available for Donald Smith. I did request and got those records sent to our crime scene unit to compare to the fingerprints we had in the vehicle. I got negative ident from crime scene. I was told I need palm prints, which to me means you need better quality or different prints. So the next thing I start doing is a complete workup on him.
Detective Cruz wasn't just gonna go out and arrest this guy. He had to take a deep dive into Donald Smith's background first.
Donald's criminal past showed a history of violence, and that lined up with the profile of the killer.
Detective Cruz pulled the suspect's work records. He found a cell number that Donald used on a job application.
He subpoenaed those phone records, and cell tower data showed the phone was active in the area and active at the murder scene and the car dump location.
All signs pointed to Donald Smith as being the killer, but Detective Cruz wanted to be doubly sure that he had the right guy.
When I had established that Donald had a work history at a specific store, I met with the employees.
Did you guys work with this gentleman?
Yes.
Yes.
And his brother worked here too sometimes.
His brother goes by the name of Ronald.
So, Ronald and Donald. Yeah, they're actually twins.
They're identical twins.
Twins.
So right now, Detective Cruz has to consider, is the right killer Donald, or could it possibly be his identical twin brother, Ronald?
Which brother is this?
That's Donald.
That's Donald.
They said they were positive it was Donald.
Are you sure? 100%, yeah, that's Donald. Okay.
When I asked those follow-up questions, like, why would you say him? And they said, well, there was an incident with him at the store where he threatened somebody. They said that generally Donald had a more aggressive nature and Ronald was more calm and timid. At that point in time, we believe Donald Smith is our guy.
Thank you very much. You've been a big help.
It's time for Detective Cruz to get an arrest warrant for Donald Smith.
A fugitive team quickly tracks him down and takes him into custody.
We bring him back to our headquarters for an interview. We get him an interview. He's like, what is this about? I didn't do anything. And then we explained to him what the charge would be. And he said, I'll talk to you.
This is Detective Cruz's opportunity to get the truth.
I show him a picture of the car, right? I show him the victim's car.
What kind of car am I looking at here?
It's a Dodge Stratus.
No, I haven't.
Never been in this car.
Never.
Detective Cruz shows Donald a photo of Janai Coleman. He's looking for a reaction.
He seemed very calm, cool, intelligent, and collective.
I have never seen this woman before.
Okay.
Ever. I don't know her.
Most people don't walk in there and say, hey, I did this. They need to be presented with the overwhelming facts and evidence against them to then realize, okay, they kind of drop their shoulders and say, you got me, and then they talk.
He's got to show them that I'm not making this up. This is a video. This is a video of what I believe to be you.
Was it with this guy right here?
Yeah. You're saying that's not you?
That is definitely not me. I don't have a shirt like that. I only can't see the face of the person, but that's not me.
Okay, so that's not you?
No, definitely not me.
So I showed him the video, I showed him the victim's car, and I showed him the victim. And he denies knowledge of all three.
Your DNA ended up in that car.
That's interesting, because my DNA couldn't have been in that car because I've never been in that car.
He's still denying it, and then he drops a bombshell.
DNA is split between 10 twins. It's indistinguishable. They share DNA, identical twins.
And I'm like, yeah, I know that. But at that point in time, I also know, is he trying to distract me to make me think his brother did it?
The conclusion I'm jumping to what you're saying, if it's somebody shared DNA, then it will have to be either you or your brother.
Obviously.
Is it possible he's not BSing them? Is the real killer Ronald and not Donald?
This is totally crazy.
You just explain to me why I'm here.
Donald Smith is arrested for the murder of Janai Coleman.
I have never seen this woman before. Ever. I don't know her.
He completely denies any involvement in her homicide.
Your DNA ended up in that car.
In a surprising twist, Donald offers his twin brother, Ronald, as the prime suspect.
DNA is split between 10 twins. It's indistinguishable. They share DNA, identical twins.
I've had a lot of interviews, interrogations with suspects in homicides, and I never in my career had an identical twin getting passed off as a suspect. It turns out Ronald Smith has a minor criminal record.
I showed it to several people, and they identified you.
I don't know who could have identified that as me because it's not me.
This is, I guess, an application. If you want to look at it real quick for me. We also confront him with the fact that the cell phone number he used for his application was active at the murder scene and also where it was.
I didn't have a phone then. It wasn't working then. That was my brother's phone number.
Oh, well, that's my brother's phone. I use it as a reference, but it's my brother's phone.
But your brother never actually gave you his phone so you can just borrow it?
No.
Okay.
Which again, he's pointing everything to his brother rather than saying it's himself.
If it wasn't me, then it had to be him. And like I said just a minute ago, that's now this is becoming really, really disheartening.
This is different. You have an identical twin with identical DNA who's thrown this huge curve in this whole investigation.
He says, let me take a break. We say, will you do a polygraph test? He's like, absolutely, I'll go do a polygraph test.
But what's interesting is he gets in there and fails miserably, according to the actual analyst administering the exam.
So he put him back in the room and he says, well, I wasn't being truthful. He's like, I do recognize the person in the video. He's like, but it's not me. It's my brother.
Donald even encourages the detectives, go show this video to my family. They're gonna also say it's my brother Ronald.
So I have 2 teams of detectives take the surveillance video, 2 separate locations simultaneously, and while we're still in there talking to them, they go meet with the family.
Detective Cruz wasn't ready to clear Donald just yet, but he started to consider Ronald could actually be the killer.
He had Donald fingerprinted and sent the prints out to be compared to the ones found in Janai's car.
Meanwhile, detectives met with Donald's parents and another sibling. They asked them to review the surveillance video.
They all said it was Ronald on the tape. When a family member picks you out, it just doesn't get any better than that.
To top it off, Detective Cruz learned the prints from the crime scene were not a match from Donald.
Donald may be telling the truth after all. At this point, Detective Cruz wanted to get a hold of Ronald Smith ASAP. He secured a warrant and quickly brought him in.
We bring him to headquarters so we can do an interview, and then we've got to execute 2 search warrants, one for his fingerprints and one for his DNA.
Even though he knew they were identical twins, until you see them in your face, damn, these brothers look just alike.
Detective Cruz takes Ronald to the interview and hopes he'll speak with him.
And while I'm showing him the mountain of evidence, you can see his demeanor starts to change.
I need you.
Detective Cruz learns that the fingerprint comparison is back from the vehicle that was stolen after the murder.
What you got?
We got him.
I look at her, she's like, it's a dead match. Fingerprints that were on file for Ronald did indeed match the recovered ones from the vehicle. So at that point in time in the investigation, we go back into the interview room and we tell him, hey, you're no longer free to leave.
All right, Ron. Things have changed, okay? Based on what's gone on, okay? The fingerprints have come back, okay? And the fingerprints are a match. So for us to discuss the matters of the fingerprints and the other things, I have to advise you to do it.
You're being arrested and charged, so we read a Miranda and said, look, do you want to tell us your side of the story?
Do you want to talk to me about some things? Not right now.
When at that point ahead, he kind of just said, look, I need a minute. I just need a minute to get my head around this. He requested to make a phone call, so we let him make a phone call.
Hey, a whole lot has happened.
So we're listening to him, and then he's talking, he's kind of upset, and I bring him a picture of the victim.
I just wanted to, I don't know if you knew this one, but this is the woman, okay? And her name was Janai.
And I say, look, here's who she was. Her name was Janai Coleman. She was a mother, she was religious, she was a good, loving woman. You know, I told him, look, the family's not mad at you, they just want to know why. And so I slide him the photo, and I leave the room. And when I did, he looks at the photo, and he apologizes to the photo. And when he does that, I'm like, that's it.
Donald.
The Janai Coleman homicide takes an unbelievable turn when suspect Donald Smith denies involvement. And he points the finger at his identical twin brother, Ronald.
If it wasn't me, then it had to be him.
Detective Cruz doesn't know what to think, but he quickly scoops up Ronald Smith and brings him in for an interview.
We got him.
It turns out Ronald's fingerprints are a direct match to the ones found in Janai's car.
I'm so smart. I'm very so smart.
And he appears to be right on the brink of actually confessing.
I know he's starting to feel remorse.
That's why I want to say something. I really do.
He's like, look, man, I just want to do this. I want to go smoke, and then I want to come back. And then I'll talk. They go outside onto the back porch. They smoke. And when he comes back in, he sits in the interview room, and Shrepo hands me the cigarette butt. And as soon as I look at him, I'm like, this is it. This is the exact same cigarette butt we recovered.
Here's this pack of cigarettes.
And right there, I read on the side of the box, Bronson Light Longs. And now I know where the long came from. Bronson Light Longs, okay? That's Bronson 100s. And so I'm like, this is it.
Detective Cruz, while he has all this other overwhelming physical evidence, he wants the confession for the family. I mean, yeah, you want it for trial, but you want the family to understand the why.
He comes back in, he sits down, and the first words he says to us, I remember, I'll never forget it.
Guilty.
Inside, you're excited, but you're trying not to show it on your face.
I don't know why. It was an accident. Straight accident.
He sits in and goes, look, I just wanted the car. He rides the bus route frequently, and so he had a couple beers at the convenience store, and he decided he didn't want to wait on the bus. And she was sitting there, unsuspecting, in her vehicle. She was on her laptop, which means she probably wasn't paying attention. And so it was pretty much just a hijacking of her motor vehicle to take it as a mode of transportation.
Ronald goes on to explain that he's trying to take this woman's car, and Janai Coleman is trying to counsel this brother into not doing it.
When she communicated with him and tried to plead with him, and his words stall, I think he got frustrated. And that's why he exited the passenger side and went to the driver's side. He says, the gun just goes off, it's a hair trigger.
The gun blew off. She said, he shot me.
Ronald Smith makes up this story about he didn't mean to do it, it was an accident. He exactly did what he intended to do.
The witnesses said they heard the suspect yell a couple superlative words, choice words, and then firing the gun. And that doesn't coincide with his statement that he walked around and then the gun accidentally went off.
I did not mean to shoot the woman. It was a hair trigger.
I mean, being a homicide detective, you know what they're saying is all a bunch of BS, but you let them keep talking.
I didn't drag her out of the car. It wasn't like that.
So this is a classic case, what we call in the business, a suspect giving a self-serving story.
He was minimizing his involvement just to make himself feel better for what he did, but it doesn't negate what they did. This murder was just senseless.
So what kind of gun did you use?
.357.
He told me it was a .357 revolver, which would explain why there was no shell casing on scene and there was no shell casing in the vehicle.
That matches up with the type of caliber of bullet that was pulled out of this victim. No one would know that except the police and the person who actually possessed that weapon.
Where's the gun now?
I ditched it. And I just took off after that.
He drove it to Forest Park. He admitted to vanning the vehicle. The only thing he didn't admit to is intentionally shooting her. So at that point in time, we're positive. It was him. He did it. And so based on that, we immediately told him, look, you're formally charged. And then we took him to the county jail.
Ronald's twin brother, Donald, is completely cleared of any wrongdoing. He's released the very same day.
Ronald Smith is charged with felony murder, hijacking of a motor vehicle, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony.
In October of 2012, the case goes to trial. After everything Ronald told police, his defense team claims it was really Donald who committed the murder.
The jury doesn't buy it. Ronald Smith is found guilty and sentenced to life plus 20 years.
This case was crazy, man. This is the stuff that we have bad dreams about.
It was a total stranger-on-stranger crime. She did nothing to put herself in a bad situation. It's senseless.
I know you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this case, but what did it really mean to you?
I mean, it made me feel not so just successful, but happy for the family. Happy that the hard work and effort materialized into finding the person who did it and ultimately getting the conviction.
All the work you put into this case, all the T's you crossed, all the I's you dotted.
So what do we got here?
Like, you left no stone unturned.
We found the car.
Damien, you didn't just have a case file. You put together a movie production.
Whoa, who are you?
I must have went through 4 barrels of popcorn going through your file and watching all the video.
We got a hit.
You got DNA, you got fingerprints, phone records, video, confession. I mean, this is like the cornucopia of a homicide case, and you did it all.
Look on the block. She said that you shot me.
And then you were able to bring this killer to justice and then give this family some type of resolve.
Guilty.
So I am completely impressed by your work, man.
The fact that you guys can recognize and appreciate it, it means a lot to me. Appreciate it.
Look, it's been a pleasure, talking about this case, and man, what a great job you did.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I respect that a lot.
My brother, awesome job.
Appreciate it.
One of the most brutal homicide cases that I've ever witnessed.
There's no shortage of motive.
This is a brother with a lot of loot.
Or suspects.
She was wild.
He had a proclivity for women.
He basically gave me a credit card to call over for anything.
Sex and money is the perfect cocktail for murder.
An unlikely tip
I have info on your murder case.
leads to a shocking conclusion.
He was totally blindsided.
That was the piece that put us over the top.
We spent our careers solving Atlanta's most puzzling homicides.
But there are other investigators just like us.
With the passion and skills needed to solve the most unbelievably challenging murders.
These are their cases.
We're about 20 miles north of the city of Atlanta in Roswell, Georgia. This is a place filled with people of influence and affluence.
If you compared Roswell to the city of Atlanta, it's like night and day. In Atlanta, we have every manner of crime you could think of.
Assaults, burglaries, homicides, you name it.
But crime's not the norm in this part of the area. I went to the police academy with an officer that later moved over to Roswell PD, and he told me how bored he was.
So you can imagine how shocked everyone was in the summer of 1996. That's when a brutal murder happened inside a mansion here that rocked the community to its core.
Emergency, somebody done killed my baby.
Okay, tell me what's going on.
I don't know. I came in the house and I found him in the bed. Hurry.
Minutes later, Roswell PD arrive at a $1 million mansion and discover a grisly scene. The victim, he's in his bed. He's covered with a sheet. There was so much blood. They found blood spatter on the ceiling, on the walls, on the headboard, the bed.
This was horror actualized in the sleepy town of Roswell, Georgia.
The victim is 41-year-old Lance Herndon, a well-known businessman.
Lance Herndon was a tech pioneer. He was getting recognized by sitting presidents. He was bringing wealth to the whole metro Atlanta. Due to the high-profile status of this case, Clint Rucker was brought in to assist with the investigation.
So, catch me up to speed on everything.
Clint Rucker is Fulton County's top prosecutor and Atlanta's legal icon.
Here's the initial report.
He's a prosecutor that thinks like a detective. He was the perfect and necessary asset to push that case forward.
This was the most important and high-profile case that I had experienced in my career. I was very determined that I would do everything I could in order to bring his killer to justice.
Who called 911?
Lance's mother. She was checking on him because he hadn't shown up for work.
The mother of Mr. Lance Herndon found him in the master bedroom, covered up by a comforter, unresponsive.
The crime scene was shocking.
This scene was one of the most gruesome crime scenes that I've ever seen. They found him bludgeoned to death. Literally, Lance Herndon's brains were beaten out of his skull.
He was literally beaten to death.
We had determined, based on the blood pattern, 11 to 14 times where this object has struck his head and his face, and it actually places the killer on top of Mr. Herndon.
This speaks to the rage of the killer, and it also speaks to the connection that the killer has to Lance Herndon.
What was he killed with?
I don't know.
A search was done of the house from top to bottom, and no murder weapon was found at the scene.
Anything valuable missing or stolen?
His laptop?
Lance was a computer software tech guy. His laptop was an IBM ThinkPad. It was one of the first of its kind to ever come out. Lance rarely ever took that laptop outside of the house because it was so vitally important, and it was very expensive, close to $5,000.
We find a laptop, we find our killer.
Take a look at that.
Clint learns another strange clue. Multiple clocks in Lance's bedroom were unplugged.
One clock was frozen at 4:10 a.m.
That's got to be right around the time of the murder.
It helped us narrow a time frame in which the murder could have occurred.
Anything else of interest from the crime scene?
There was a framed photo.
One of the other things that was very unusual, Lance had a photograph next to his bed of a woman, but that picture frame was turned face down.
Who's the woman?
Working on it.
Let me know when you figure it out.
The killer could be someone who was romantically involved with our victim. A scorned woman or lover and had a heightened sense of jealousy and had to put that picture down.
Where were the suspects?
Still sifting through people. While he did have a lot of friends, there were some enemies.
This was a classic whodunit from the very beginning.
Let's get to work.
But one thing is clear, this killer's connected to this victim. And everyone is a suspect until you're not.
Clint.
What's up, my brother? Man. Good to see you.
We met with Clint to learn how he narrowed down the suspect pool.
When we looked at Lance's life, there was a consistent word kind of used to describe Lance's personality, and that was he was a ladies' man. Lance liked the ladies, and there were many of them that were in and around his life in various capacities.
So you got to harken back to the scene itself. That amount of violence, that spells rage.
Lance was found in his bed, face up, nude. And that suggested to me that there was a sexual component here that I might need to take a hard look at. And so when I went down my suspect list, now I'm looking at folks who would have been intimate with him in the days or weeks prior to his death.
This photograph of Lance and this woman turned down had to have meant something.
It was really important for us to identify who the person was in that photograph so we could see exactly if she had anything to do with Lance's death. And so when we investigated, what we learned is that young lady's name is Nadine Foster. She was Lance's primary girlfriend. When we looked at Nadine, one of the things that we discovered is that there had been a prior incident at the house where a woman came and knocked on Lance's door while Nadine was there. And I do know that it caused a bit of friction between Nadine and Lance.
Vince and I have worked homicides in the past where definitely scorned lovers are suspect number one. They're the ones that you have to rule out early.
Nadine could have found out that Lance was about to break up with her and in a fit of rage, murdered him.
crime scene was shocking.
Atlanta Tech mogul Lance Herndon has been murdered in his Roswell home.
He was literally beaten to death.
Due to the high-profile nature of the case, Roswell police asked for assistance from Fulton County prosecutor Clint Rucker.
Who's the woman?
Working on it.
All the evidence suggests that Lance was killed by someone he knew.
Lance liked the ladies, and there were many of them that were in and around his life in various capacities.
Let's get to work.
Police end up zeroing in on Lance's girlfriend, Nadine Foster.
Nadine could have acted out in a very violent rage, feeling like she was losing control of a man that she cared about very deeply.
This could have been a fatal attraction.
Nadine Foster was very much a suspect. Police were interested in trying to learn where she had been on the night of Lance's death and see if there was some motivating factor to commit the murder.
How was she acting? What was her body language?
She was a little defiant by the fact that she had to answer these questions and justify her whereabouts. She vehemently denies having anything to do with the murder of Lance Herndon. She didn't show any emotion like I expected. There were no tears. One of the things that she wanted to know was how soon could she get her clothes back.
She's more concerned about getting her belongings out of the house than really finding out what happened to Lance. It's very odd to see that.
Miss Foster relays she was having a secret relationship behind Lance's back, and that's what she was doing on this night. We had eyewitnesses that kind of put her on the other side of town at the time that Lance was murdered, and so we were able to kind of eliminate her and cross her off the list.
As Clint prepared for his next move, he received word that the medical examiner's report was finished. And there were some interesting findings.
One of the biggest revelations to the report was related to the murder weapon. The wounds on Lance's face had a unique curved pattern to them. And the ME believed that it was possibly from a crescent wrench.
Clint obtained a crescent wrench and laid it on a photo of the injuries. He was blown away. The wrench lined up perfectly with the markings on Lance Herndon's face.
At this point, detectives returned to Lance's home to search for the murder weapon.
So how long did you work for Mr. Herndon?
2 years.
Investigators began re-interviewing members of Lance's staff who would have had access to his house.
What are you looking for?
It's a crescent wrench.
I've seen one.
Lance's staff made a note to detectives that Mr. Herndon actually had that same kind of crescent wrench inside of his bedroom because he was putting together some exercise equipment.
It was in there. I haven't seen it since.
Learning that there was a crescent wrench at one time present prior to Lance's death and afterwards it was missing told me that we had in fact identified positively the murder weapon.
That means that was a crime of opportunity. Someone was filled with rage and they grabbed the first heavy thing they could get their hands on and used it to kill our victim.
Have you spoken with Solange? I mean, she may have seen it too.
She worked for Mr. Herndon?
Yeah, and they dated.
She was a former lover of Lance Herndon and was the current part-time worker.
Thank you for your time.
Investigators are really interested in speaking with Solange Maxwell. She voluntarily comes in for an interview.
So, tell me about you and Lance.
She told the police that there was no romantic relationship, that relationship had ended a few years earlier, but that they had maintained a very cordial and a very friendly relationship.
I worked for him part-time.
When was the last time you saw him?
The night he was murdered.
She's the last person to see Lance alive.
Solange tells police she was working at Lance's home from 6 to 10:30 p.m.
Lance was home at 9 p.m. and he never left.
Solange says she left Lance's house and arrived at her own home around 11:30 p.m.
And what's more, Solange says Lance Herndon actually left a voicemail on her recorder just to make sure she got home safely.
I called them back and we talked until about midnight.
Upon investigation, police were able to verify her story, and then ultimately she has an alibi and she is also stricken off the list and eliminated as a potential suspect.
Thank you.
Thanks to Solange, we now know he was alive at midnight. We know the clock stopped at 4:10. That timeline just shrunk to 4 hours and 10 minutes.
With leads drying up, Clint turns to Lance's close friend, Christopher Alexander.
So, we're looking at women in Lance's life.
He felt like I was genuinely trying to solve this case, and he wanted to tell me as much as he could about what Lance had shared with him.
Lance had recently fallen for someone. Her name was Dion Ball.
Dion was 28 years old. She originally was from Jamaica. She was enrolled at Georgia State University.
She was wild.
He tells me, as is the case with most new, fresh relationships, it was fast, it was fun, it was sexy.
According to Mr. Alexander, there was something about Dion Ball Lance couldn't get her off his mind. And he was smitten by her.
He showered her with gifts.
Like what?
Gave her a credit card, even bought her a new Mercedes.
We're talking about a Mercedes-Benz. We're not talking about a bouquet of flowers from the supermarket.
So, he was in love?
Not really. He didn't want to settle down.
Lance was not interested in having a serious, monogamous relationship with Dion Ball. But she wanted more. And the relationship for Lance began to sour.
He told me she started acting crazy, so he cut her off. And she was pissed.
Could this new girlfriend be the killer?
When was the last time you saw him?
The night he was murdered.
After a couple of months, the Lance Herndon homicide investigation started to slow down.
Thanks for meeting with me.
But top prosecutor Clint Rucker does not give up.
We're looking at women in Lance's life.
He's convinced someone that knew Lance is responsible for his murder.
Lance had recently fallen for someone.
He gets a new lead when a best friend lets Clint know that the victim's been dating a new girlfriend by the name of Dion Ball.
He told me she started acting crazy, so he cut her off. And she was pissed.
I thought, she's the lead that we've been waiting for.
Investigators contact Dion Ball, and she comes in for a videotaped interview.
If I'd known I was gonna go on camera, I'd look better.
She has such a cavalier demeanor. She's actually joking around with the detectives.
Did Lance support?
Just, well, to a certain degree.
How so?
Well, he'd give me money every week. He'd pay for my school fee and buy my book. He basically gave me a credit card to go wherever I needed.
It was almost playful. She laughed quite a bit. She told some inappropriate jokes.
Well, I mean, like, was it 50, 100?
No. What can $50 do? That's luxury.
Does that sound like a woman who devastated because the love of her life has just been brutally murdered? It's very odd to see that.
Detectives asked Dion of her whereabouts on the night of the murder.
Dion gives them an alibi. She claims she was at home, that she never left her house.
Did you know many of his friends?
No, and I purposely wanted it that way. The fact I'm still married, I'm not legally divorced.
She drops this huge bombshell right in the middle of the table, talking about the fact that she's actually a married woman.
Does your husband live here?
No, he lives in Jamaica.
The investigators learned that Dion Ball had been married for several years to a man named Thomas, who was a pilot who lived in Jamaica.
He came up the other day and got my daughter, and then he left.
What day was that?
The same day that Lance died.
Lance had made a phone call to Dion's house, and Thomas answered the phone. After hanging up, Thomas questioned Dion quite extensively about the nature of her relationship with Lance. Dion explained to her husband that they were just merely friends.
This opens the door now. Your wife is cheating on you. She's denying it. I can see somebody picking up a wrench and take that victim out in a fit of rage.
Clint may have just found his motive.
We were interested in speaking to Thomas to find out whether or not there had been some motive on his part to participate or to cause the death of Lance Herndon.
When detectives dug into Thomas's background,
They quickly found out through flight records that he was on a plane back to Jamaica at 8 p.m. the day of the murder.
so he was more than 1,000 miles away and just couldn't have committed this murder. With Thomas in the clear, police took an even harder look at Dion.
And that's when they made a jaw-dropping discovery.
Detectives find out that 1 month before the homicide of Lance Herndon, Dion Ball got a criminal trespass warning to stay off the property of Lance Herndon.
Dion Ball actually was at his house uninvited.
She was looking through the window, a la Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction, and she sees a woman in a towel walking around Lance Herndon's crib.
Lance was having an overnight visit from Nadine.
She was unhinged.
Lance was unwilling to open the door. He called the police.
Hey, there's somebody knocking at my door, and there might be like an ex-girlfriend or whatever, and gives me some problems.
No cop wants to take anybody to jail for criminal trespass. They got way more important things to do. But she couldn't even follow a lawful order by the police.
Most people, when you see the cops, they tell you to get the hell on, you get the hell on. She acted the fool in front of the cops. They're starting to paint the picture that nobody can tell Dion Ball anything.
She was arrested. And there's more.
Court summons.
From the criminal trespass case, she was actually scheduled to appear in Roswell Court the day of Lance Herndon's body being discovered.
This is a real motive.
Bells and whistles went off. From Dion's perspective, prosecution of this case for her would have been life-changing and means that her husband and family would find out about the existence of this inappropriate relationship with Lance Herndon.
This cannot be a coincidence. It's just too convenient that this homicide occurred the day before this hearing. If Lance Herndon is not available to testify, Dion Ball gets off scot-free.
We need to speak with her again.
Dion Ball has to have the microscope pinned against her right now.
She was arrested.
The Lance Herndon homicide investigation is heating up.
Hey, there's somebody knocking at my door, and gives me some problems.
Clint Rucker discovers that ex-girlfriend Dion Ball was arrested for trespassing outside of Lance Herndon's home.
And there's more.
We found out that Lance was scheduled to go to court on the day he was killed to prosecute Dion Ball for criminal trespassing.
We need to speak with her again.
It gave me a real sensation that Dion Ball was the actual killer.
Dion agrees to further questioning by police.
I already told you, I had nothing to do with Lance's death.
She claims that she would never do anything like that she's not that kind of person, and that she's not a violent person.
There is something I didn't mention before.
She drops a bombshell on him.
She indicated she last saw Lance on the night before he was killed, when he came to her home and brought her his laptop computer.
He gave you his laptop?
Yes.
That's the only item that they can tell was missing from the residence of value. The police were highly suspicious of that.
I needed it for schoolwork and asked Lance to bring me his portable one.
Did he give you a computer case with it?
No.
Lance would have never given her this computer in that manner?
I'm telling the truth.
The laptop was very expensive. It was the computer in which he used to transact business. You would have expected it to be given inside of its protective carrying case.
What time did he bring it to you?
About 9:30 p.m.
Lance was home at 9 p.m. and he never left.
We know that's not true because Lance's staff made a note to detectives that Mr. Herndon actually was at home during that time. So this sister's lying.
We have people that swear he was at his house until 10:30.
I don't know what to tell you. He came over, gave me the computer, then he left.
Is she arrestable at this point? Absolutely. But can Clint guarantee a conviction? Not yet.
While the internal feeling was that she was the person responsible, there was also this sense of there being like one thing missing that would conclusively allow us to be able to convict her beyond a reasonable doubt.
Knowing Clint, he wasn't going to just charge somebody until he had enough to put the case over the top.
He had no eyewitnesses and no definitive scientific evidence linking Dion Ball to this murder.
His evidence was all purely circumstantial. So we had to pump the brakes on this, regroup, and see what happened.
Nearly a year and a half passed with no new leads. I mean, this case was ice cold, but Clint refused to give up.
One of the critical components of homicide investigation is watching paint dry. You gotta check into your patients and then pull out a folding chair. Because sometimes you just gotta let the evidence come to you.
It was extremely frustrating that I couldn't charge her with murder. It left me feeling as though I had failed Lance Herndon and his family.
Hello.
Mr. Rucker,
Yes.
I have info on your murder case.
He gets this crazy call out of the blue. It's a divorce attorney representing Dion Ball's husband.
My client wants to talk.
She says, I know you're investigating Dion Ball for the murder of Lance Herndon. I got some information for you.
Can we meet in person?
Absolutely.
I was very excited. I was very anxious.
Clint knows whatever he's gonna hear is probably gonna be the key piece of evidence he needs to take this case home.
How about this afternoon?
Mr. Rucker,
Yes.
I have info on your murder case.
Prosecuting attorney Clint Rucker gets a call that could break this case wide open.
My client wants to talk.
It's a divorce attorney representing Dion Ball's husband.
Can we meet in person?
How about this afternoon?
I'll make it happen.
Thank you.
I was very excited. The information would be exactly what we needed in order to put us over the edge.
Clint meets with Thomas and his divorce attorney.
So what do you guys got for me?
Dion was a cheater. I know she had an affair with Lance, but that's not all.
He says, hey man, the reason I'm filing for divorce is because I think my wife killed Lance. He shared with me that several weeks prior to him filing for the divorce, Dion had actually traveled to Jamaica. They had gotten into an argument with respect to Dion's relationship with Lance.
Things turned physical quickly.
He says Dion got very aggressive. She knocked me on the ground and began beating me in the head.
She's off the hook. She's trying to hurt this brother. That's all going back to the kind of damage we saw done to Lance Herndon when he met his demise.
And then she threatened me.
She said, if you don't stop effing with me, I'ma do you just like I did Lance. His statement was tantamount to a confession.
You did the right thing.
It became clear to me that Dion Ball was our killer.
Clint devises a plan to take Dion down. which includes secretly attending her divorce proceeding.
I very casually walked into the back of the courtroom. I was dressed very casually, like a spectator might be.
Clint knows Deon Ball has to testify under oath. You gotta raise your hand in civil court just like you do in criminal court.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
The great thing about a divorce proceeding, it's on the record. Clint now gets to hear from the horse's mouth.
I would like to discuss your relationship with Lance Herndon.
Her husband, Thomas, was alleging that there was an adulterous relationship. Deon Ball was denying it.
There was nothing physical going on.
Everybody and his mama knows that she had that kind of relationship with this brother.
We were just friends.
She said we never had a sexual relationship. I don't know what my husband is talking about, which is totally inconsistent with what she told the police.
He was a mentor to me.
Deon's revisionist history doesn't stop there.
Is it true that he gave you his laptop computer?
Yes.
And another important thing that Deon Ball testified to is that she actually went to Lance Herndon's home on the night that he was murdered and actually picked up the laptop computer.
What time were you at his house?
Between 9 and 10:30.
This was completely inconsistent and total opposite of what she said previously to law enforcement.
He came over, gave me the computer, then he left.
Deon Ball, now, probably forgetting the lie she told Roswell police, has now placed herself at the crime scene the night Lance Herndon was killed. This is exactly what Clint Rucker needed.
Clint believes he finally has enough to move the case forward, and he's going to use Deon's own words against her.
The things that she said under oath during the divorce case can absolutely be used in my murder trial.
While Clint was planning his next move, he received some incredible news from the crime lab.
DNA testing from the crime scene was finally completed.
Deon Ball's DNA was found under Lance Herndon's fingernails.
And a hair recovered on Lance's body also belonged to her.
Clint felt like he could now scientifically tie Deon to the crime scene.
The DNA evidence, coupled with Deon's actual statements in divorce court, gave Clint what he needed to finally make an arrest.
And in January 1998, nearly a year and a half after Lance's murder,
Deon Ball was taken into custody. Her arrest was just the beginning to the long road to justice.
It took another 3 years, but in 2001, the case finally went to trial.
Good afternoon. I'm going to take a little time to explain to you why, without any doubt, the killer sits in this courtroom.
Clint didn't enter this trial with a clear-cut home run. The DNA could be explained that it's consensual. Of course, there's going to be transfer of hair.
I was nervous. I'm fighting not only for Lance, but for all his family members and friends who loved him dearly.
This was going to be one of the most talked about murder trials in the history of Fulton County.
And she is right here.
What time were you at his house?
Between 9 and 10:30.
Over a year after the murder of Lance Herndon, Fulton County Prosecutor Clint Rucker files charges against the ex-girlfriend of this victim, Deon Ball.
The case is highly circumstantial, but Clint makes a decision to go to trial with the information and the evidence that he has.
I have been given the responsibility of presenting to you the case of the state versus Mrs. Deon Andrea Ball.
Over the next 2 weeks, Clint lays out the prosecution's explosive case against Deon. According to Clint, it began when the couple's relationship soured.
Lance was using this criminal trespassing court case as a way to permanently cut ties with Deon Ball.
When that happens, you can only imagine her rage. That's the lifestyle she wanted to have. A married sister, her side piece is cutting her off and she's losing her mind.
According to Clint's theory, Deon wasn't giving up on the relationship.
On the night that Lance was killed, Deon Ball arrived at his home in Roswell sometime after midnight. Deon would have been seeking assurances from Lance that he was not going to prosecute her. He was not the kind of person who was confrontational. Lance would have assured her that he had no intention of going to court. And I think that they would have engaged in sexual relations at that time. I believe all of this would have occurred in between midnight and 4 a.m. After having sex, I believe that Lance fell asleep.
The theory of the prosecution is, at some point, Deon Ball went to that laptop.
Deon would have wanted to confirm what Lance had told her. She would have checked his calendar and found that he planned to attend court and actually prosecute her. This would have driven her into a rage. She concluded that the only way she could prevent this from happening to her and destroying her life potentially is to take his life. She looked around the room and saw this crescent wrench and decided that she was going to beat him to death. And I believe that she would have straddled his body.
Clint doesn't just tell the jury what happened next. He shows them.
The killer was up close and personal when taking Mr. Herndon's life. The killer struck him. He was struck again and 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 again until she beat the life out of him.
Once she realized what she had done, she immediately went to a cover-up mindset. She wrapped up the murder weapon. And she took the laptop computer because it indicated he intended to go to court to prosecute her. She was just taking away the evidence that pointed in her direction.
You will finally bring his killer to justice.
So when the jury actually begins to deliberate, it is literally out of my hands.
On April 17, 2001, the jury reaches a verdict. Deon Ball is guilty of murdering Lance Herndon and sentenced to life. The celebration in this case didn't last long. Deon's lawyers appealed the conviction and won. They won based on some testimony that shouldn't have been allowed in court.
In October 2003, Clint and his team took Deon to court again. But this time, the trial ended in a hung jury.
Clint refused to give up. As he prepared for a third trial, Deon's legal team asked for a deal.
Clint spoke with Lance's family, and they decided that the stress of another trial was just unbearable. Ultimately, Deon Ball pled guilty to 1 count of voluntary manslaughter.
She received a sentence of 10 years in prison, and the case was finally over. 2 trials over a number of years, and now a plea deal.
Right.
Tell us about that, man. What were you thinking?
It's disappointing. I think it left the family with a huge hole in their hearts about the way our system works and the way that justice ultimately got meted out.
It was a travesty of justice for the family of Lance Herndon. Deon Ball was a crafty, well-versed, manipulative woman. In my opinion, she played the system, and she won.
The thing that really enrages me is that even after she went away on the plea deal, she had the gall to write me a letter, still professing her innocence.
That's straight narcissism.
Yeah.
Sociopathic behavior.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, as we sit here today, Deon Ball is a free woman.
That's true. She did a little bit more than 9 years. And so she's been released. You know, I hope I never see her again. At the end of the day, I do feel a sense of satisfaction that we were able to at least have her accept responsibility and that she received some punishment. And so in my heart and in my spirit,